Hello everyone, I'm back and I'm still here. It's been a week since I've had emergency bowel resection for a bowel obstruction. That was last Monday, so it's just a lot's happened in the last week and I'm still here. Anyways, so I think it was last Saturday, I presented to the ER with the same stuff, vomiting, pain. I hadn't gone to the bathroom for about 3 weeks, and I just I felt like I was dying. Like, different than, it's different than being in pain. Like, when you feel like you're dying, I just, I knew I only had a certain amount of time. And so I went in Saturday, and of course, they couldn't find anywhere to transfer me to. All the hospitals here in California, beds are full. They're not accepting transfers from small hospitals. I think I went home Saturday night. I was back in the ER Sunday morning, and I think I have the days right. Anyways, I was back in the ER, and I had a nurse that I had never had before, and the nurse, he took my intake and all the information and everything, and he sat down and he really talked to me. So he didn't just go through the protocol. I mean, he did that obviously, but he took a moment. He took, a couple of minutes to tell me that I needed to have surgery, and that, obviously couldn't happen there. I couldn't be transferred, and he suggested that I drive myself to the ER, to LA, to the ER. And I knew when he said that, it was exactly what I needed to hear. It was exactly the instruction that I needed at the time. And he's the first nurse that really had said it in that way. And he just said, basically, you got to get yourself to the ER. You have to get help. And so I did. So I stayed in the ER and, let them manage my pain and my vomiting or my nausea. And I'm not the kind of person that reaches out for help. I've learned to reach out for help from my, the people I trust, the really close people in my life. And they weren't available. My go-to people couldn't help me. They were out of town, or they had other obligations. They couldn't drop what they were doing to drive me 5 hours south to the ER. And then, of course, drive home again. And so I got on Facebook, and I'm a pretty private person, despite being on YouTube, but I had to put out a notice on buy, sell, trade. Basically, I need an emergency ride to LA to be dropped off. Didn't matter who it was. I really didn't care. I really didn't care if it was a stranger that came, just anyone. If anyone was going to LA, I needed to get there. I needed to go with them. I reached out to people that I normally wouldn't reach out to, people I barely knew, people that I hadn't talked to in a while, just anyone and everyone. And I didn't get a response, so it's about 10 o'clock at night, and I'm texting people pretty late. But I had to. It was like, I don't care if I'm waking people up. I needed to put myself first. And oh boy. No one got back to me, or people got back to me, but they couldn't do it. So I went to sleep that night. And by the grace of God, I woke up in the morning, and one of my friends from LA, someone that I trust to take care of me, someone who's, who I'd consider a very mature and responsible person that I trust to make sure that I'm okay. Immediately, no questions asked. You got it, dropped everything, drove up. First thing in the morning, picked me up. I grabbed a couple belongings from home. Um, gave my dog a kiss and a hug and went down to LA. Now, by this time, I'm on huge amounts of drugs. I'm on fentanyl and Dilaudid and Oxy and everything. And apparently I was awake for most of the trip, but I don't remember any of it, and it was probably a good thing. I woke up as we were pulling into the hospital down in LA. And he dropped me off, got me checked in, made sure that I was being seen and that, the nurses and everyone knew that I needed help right away. And I was afraid I was going to sit in the ER for hours because that's kind of the way it is right now. The ERs are full, and whatever it was, I think this was a Sunday night, and whatever it was, I got lucky, and I went in, and it was empty and well organized, and they saw me right away, and they took care of me right away, and I had a full blockage. I was dying. I was dying. Anyways, fuck, this doesn't even seem real. The next thing I remember, I was being wheeled into the surgery suite. I was being, consulted. I was signing consent forms and being, consulted by the anesthesiologist, and I'm sure that they talked to me and explained everything, and I was just agreeable to everything, whatever they needed to do to save me, and they did that. So it was about a 6-hour procedure. They removed the cyst, the large ovarian cyst that I had. It was huge still. It had gotten smaller, but it was still very, very large. They removed that. They removed about a foot of my colon. They gave me a temporary ostomy, colostomy, and they put me back together, and that was it. I had about 5 surgeons. I had 3 gynecology, oncology surgeons, and then I had 2 GI doctors that worked on me. And I came to in the hospital room. I think I had come to earlier, but I don't remember being in recovery. I don't remember coming out of it, any of that. I just remember waking up in the hospital suite and being in a tremendous amount of pain. I had an NG tube. I had obviously catheter. I had a drained a wound vac. I had an incision, an open incision. That's about 10 inches long up my midsection, and then I have another horizontal incision just below my ribs, sort of over my spleen, I'm guessing. I think my liver's on this side, yeah. So I was never really out of pain for the next 2 days, and I laid completely still, pretty much a level 8 the entire time, and with a colostomy bag attached to me, and just in a weird daze, in a weird place. I had my phone, of course, this whole time, and I'm, people are texting me, and one of my closest friends who has, been an angel, been an absolute godsend through all of this. She called my parents and explained to them what was going on, and she called them after the surgery and explained to them, gave them all the information that they needed and wanted, and was very thorough, and so that was really wonderful. And she was actually the first one to explain to me what they had actually done to me. And so I was reading about the results of the procedure through text message. So they sent the large cyst off to pathology, which I should get the results in a couple of weeks. They unfortunately were not able to take the colon cancer out for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why, but so I still have that. So I still have the blockage in my colon. I'm just not using that part of my colon anymore. So the good news is most of my colon is actually very healthy. And there was about a foot long, 10, 11, 12 inches that was damaged. It didn't work. And so they took that out. And the first couple days were pretty surreal. I was looking at my life now with the colostomy bag, trying to wrap my head around that, what that's going to be like. I still have the chemo to go through. I still have, the colon cancer, which weirdly just doesn't seem like that big of a deal right now. But I was in the hospital for 4 days total, actually 5 days, sorry. And on that 5th day, I was up walking around comfortably and was able to take a shower and was able to, wash over my staples and able to eat solid food, eat regular food. Of course, I still have to be careful of not eating stuff that's difficult to digest, but, whatever. So I just wanted to kind of come up to speed a little bit with being in the hospital. And, this is the first time I've really had any major surgery. It's the first time I've ever really felt like my life was in danger. This is obviously changing me in a weird way, but not in a bad way. I don't know. I'm still optimistic. I still feel like a healthy person. I still don't feel sick. Like I have the pain in my stomach from the incision. Obviously I just had major surgery. But I don't feel sick. I feel healthy. I still think of myself as being healthy, even with all of this going on. So now it's exactly a week out, and my stomach's sore, but that's it. I'm learning how the colostomy bag works, sort of getting used to, having that now as how I eliminate waste. I was really freaked out about it at first for a little bit, but that went away pretty fast. I watched a lot of YouTube, following some people, and I had some questions, of course, and I just kind of wanted to know what my daily life was going to be like, and was this going to affect my work, and is it going to affect my daily life? Is it going to smell? Is it going to make noise? Is it going to be difficult to manage, those kinds of questions. And, thankfully there's people out there on YouTube that were willing to share about that kind of stuff. And now that I've had a couple of days, I actually am starting to think it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, obviously, it's funny because I'm telling people on YouTube that I have one, so obviously I'm telling the world. But, like, I don't necessarily want my neighbors to know, or I don't really want people like acquaintances, like people who know me to know. Like, I don't know, that seems weird to me, but, like, I can get on YouTube, and if a stranger knows, I don't really care. But I don't really want, like, friends to know. I mean, some of them will, of course, but, I don't really feel a need to tell anyone. I don't think anyone needs to know. And I'm kind of starting to figure out that actually it's you can manage this without people really knowing. I was worried that maybe I wasn't going to be able to have house guests anymore, that, because I like to open up my house for people, to come ski for the weekend and hang out and, go out for dinner and do all that kind of stuff. And I was really concerned that this bag was going to be like such a big ordeal that I couldn't hide it from the people that are around me. And I think that I could actually have someone staying with me and using the same bathroom. And I don't think that they would know unless I really told them. So that's cool. I'm learning when my body's active and, when it's active and when it's not. And I can totally work, that's not going to be a big deal. It doesn't really make noise. I'm sure it probably will at times, but it's just kind of like whatever. So I'm just really, really grateful for it. I'm considering how vain I can be at times. I'm actually not bothered by the colostomy bag at all. Like I said, I don't really want acquaintances to know about it, but right now it's saving my life. It's 100% saving my life. And if I didn't have this, I wouldn't be here. So that's been cool. I've been amazingly mature. Like I said, considering how vain I am and how, I still have some, perfectionism that's kind of left over from the years. And, yeah, it's just like, whatever, who cares? Fortunately, I don't think I'd be able to handle this well if I were younger, especially if I was dating. I'm also not dating too, and I don't have a partner, so I don't have to worry about, intimacy and what my partner thinks about it, or, any of that kind of stuff. So, I don't have to worry about any of that, and I don't intend to date either. So there's that. My recovery is going really well. I mean, I'm only a week out and drove myself to the grocery store. I'm not really on any pain medication. I'm taking anti-anxiety and I'm taking ibuprofen, but that's it. Yeah. So I'm going to try not to let this go on too long, but before too much time went in between postings, I wanted to just throw something out there. It's rambly. It's not going to be edited. My voice for some reason is not projecting right now. I just think that's lack of muscle strength right now. But if you're sitting in a hospital bed and you're Googling life with a colostomy bag, I can tell you I've had mine now. I've been actively using mine now for about 3 days, and not a big deal. Seriously, not a big deal. And recovering. My stomach's recovering well. I lost my belly button, unfortunately, but it's like, who cares? I did lose some more weight, unfortunately, so now I'm down to about 120, which, I'm 5'10". It's pretty light, but whatever. I'm alive. I'm here. I get to have more time with my friends and with my family and to do the things that I want to do. And, I don't really see I have my life back. I'm able to eat without fear. And that was actually probably the biggest adjustment when coming home, was realizing that I could eat something and not be scared. I haven't had that for a couple of years. So I get to redefine my relationship with food. I get to redefine my relationship with my body, with my, my priorities. I've always felt like I've had pretty good priorities, but now, I just feel like I can handle anything, And I had people that just came out of the woodwork to help me. And I'm really, really looking forward to my life, and I'm looking forward to my future, and I'm looking forward to living without fear, which is what I've been praying for every day. I pray to live without fear, and to live in freedom from fear, freedom from the past, freedom from pain, freedom from worthlessness. I'll get into this stuff more later as I kind of start to process this. But I want you to know, if you're in a hospital bed wondering what life is going to be like with less, say you've had part of your colon taken out. I can't speak to anything other than that. But life with a colostomy bag, not a big deal. I think I'm going to end it there and maybe give this some more thought. And I'm just going to throw this up, and thanks for hanging out with me. But just know that you'll get through this, and it's nothing to be depressed about. It's really, really, I'm just so thankful. So thankful. I would do it again. All of the pain that I went through this last week was nothing. It was literally nothing. It was a drop in the bucket compared to what I had been dealing with for the last 2 or 3 years. And if you're a strong person, you just kind of deal with it. But I've been liberated from the pain in my body, liberated from fear, and I got a piece of myself back. So hang in there. I'll catch up with you guys when I kind of sort this out a little bit more. But this is it for now. All right, you guys have a good night.